Cindy Toll.
Ken Basinger.
Christina Robertson, Gardner staff.
Martha White staff.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment on items not listed on the agenda?
Can you list the date and time?
Oh, today's November 23rd, 2010. It's approximately 6:05. No? Is there public comment on items not listed on the agenda? Okay. We're going to start with general business. We're going to start with a discussion with Commissioner Mayor-elect Doug Neely on the HRB board appointments and process.
I'd like to introduce Commissioner Doug Neely, our new mayor-elect. He would like to introduce himself and discuss the Historic Review Board appointments and just general meet and greet and process with the Historic Review Board.
Welcome.
Thank you. I know Cindy quite well. I don't know that I know the two of you that well. The other two members I know quite well. So the mayor has two duties under the charter. One is the order of the agenda. Now, the mayor doesn't have any control of the agenda, but has control of the order in which things are on the agenda. So that's not much of a power. The actual power the mayor has is to appoint members to the various advisory committees as well as to the Historic Review Board. Of course, you have a governing role as the Planning Commission. I was going to list the applicants to the positions that I believe two of you are reapplying for. Is that right?
I am.
Yeah, and I think Ken, you're also reapplying as well. And then Todd, Iceland or isn't?
Iceland.
That's what I thought, but I always messed it up. And there were two other candidates. Now, Christine has indicated to me that actually the two candidates in question don't fill the kinds of positions that are available. My understanding, we've got the member of the Canadian Association is being appointed. Is that right? Mm-hmm. For the next one, that the architect is being appointed, and that they don't tell me. Since I got it written down, why don't you tell me the other one? That's all right. McLaughlin. That's right, Cindy. That's right. And Christina's indicated that actually the other two are not from areas that would qualify for those positions. In which case, I think it's pretty clear from who I'm going to be appointing this year, make it very easy for me. What I just might throw out for consideration on your part, Christina, my guess is no matter where they are, they probably could fill the at-large position, which is what, open in 2 years? Is that right?
I think so. When is your at-large?
Mid-large only in a figurative sense. I think it's in 2 years. Yeah. 2 years in February or March is where I think it'll be a year.
You don't end at the end of the
I think it's 2 years December because you've been here for a year. So
yeah.
Is that correct?
Okay.
I think so. Yeah. So 2 years.
It might be when you inform the people that they don't qualify for the positions, you might indicate then when that large position becomes available, so they know there's an opportunity if they're really interested in serving on this on this board.
I think the other thing is, excuse me, we could serve for 2 terms. Is that right? So is it a matter of voicing to be renewed, or? I
think it's an open kind of recruitment. So the people that are in the existing position reapply, and so they're as well as anybody else that wants to reapply, and the mayor gets to look at all the options.
I got you. But isn't it the board that appoints or interviews the members?
Well, that's what I was going to discuss tonight. However, it's actually it's kind of moot because it's not an issue, and maybe we can work out through the next couple of years as the mechanism of doing that. One of the things I was going to suggest, if they were, in fact, if there were people that qualify for positions, would be perhaps to have the individuals that are on the board itself that are not reapplying for positions. That is, either the position's not up or they made a decision not to apply. Perhaps to have them get together and make a recommendation. I think it's a little bit more difficult for somebody who would be essentially an incumbent to the position to start giving advice on who to appoint to the position. And I was going to discuss something like that tonight. I don't see there's any point in it, though, because there's only, each position has only one person that's actually qualified to apply for it, and all the positions will be filled if those appointments are made. But that is a discussion I would probably like to have with you, there's no urgency on it, but have a mechanism. But yes, I think recommendations are in order, but I think they're best made by individuals who are not seeking reappointment.
Yeah. So, as far as the board's purview, as far as it's the board's job to interview,
It's really up to the mayor.
is that how it works, like with each board, or
Well,
I mean,
it's up to the mayor in general how the mayor wants to appoint. And so, as the years have gone on, we've been working on process and how we do appointments. Previously, each committee kind of worked in their own silo, and now Nancy Ide, our city recorder, is trying to be a lot more coordinated, which you probably saw when you received that email link from me this last fall that said please reapply. That is, we now have a kind of a clearinghouse process for all board appointments, and that's new. So I think we're trying to also streamline how the boards are going to be interviewed and reappointed, because that we haven't had a formal process. Previously, we have interviewed the applicants and recommended our candidates to the mayor. And
That process is fine. I would just say that the people that are reapplying for a position shouldn't be part of that interview process or making recommendations. Other than that, I think the process is probably fine. Yeah. But as I say, it's moving. So thank you.
yeah. Well, it's good to meet you.
And I do know,
Thank you.
Mr. Neely, that we do want to meet with the city commission next year and just in general and do kind of our yearly work session. So we'll be in coordination, Tony Conco and myself in coordination with the city commission on when we want that to happen.
Acting make decisions, which unless there are people in the city commission, actually
Fine.
decisions.
Yeah.
Are you saying we have tea?
A couple. Cheers.
Well, thank you. Our second item of business is a public comment discussion with Denise McGriff, the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association regarding SP 10-10, 1312 Washington Street. Come on forward, state your name,
I don't want to mess up anything.
maybe state your name and your address for us.
You can just close the lid if you want to.
You just close the lid, okay. It won't just like go away or anything, okay.
Well, until you turn it on, it was bleeding.
Denise, I don't know if we're on, is it on,
Right.
it's on? Okay, Denise McGriff from McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, and I live at 815 Washington Street.
Or Damon Maybe, Chair of McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. I live in Oregon City, by the hospital.
Thank you. Welcome.
The reason that I had asked to be on the agenda tonight is that the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association is interested in soliciting an either official or unofficial opinion about an item that was brought to us as an application. And I will qualify what I'm going to say to you. The property in question at 1312 Washington Street is just outside of the McLaughlin Conservation District. Therefore, this group would not have any formal review of the particular proposal. However, it is still within the boundaries of the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, which is why we are looking at it. I apologize that I didn't have this on CD, but I brought hard copies for you to look at. And I guess what we're concerned with is the point that this is adjacent to the Conservation District. The subject building is just south of Tony's Fish Market, and I'm sure you've all seen it many times as you sitting by Spicer Brothers, or standing there or driving there, and you turn to the right to go up the hill. It's immediately on your left. In the vicinity is another house just south of this one that's in the Conservation District. Tony's is not, Spicer Brothers is not, but they're in the Neighborhood Association. You also just reviewed an application for a house that's on 13th Street. It's the vacant lot. And then there's it was pinkish, but I think they just repainted it. It's yellow. It's a designated landmark that's had, unfortunately, some incompatible alterations. So John's trying, so hang on just a sec.
I'm trying to picture.
I've got pictures, I forgot to bring those up. I've got pictures of the existing house.
Oh,
Let me grab those.
The simpler version of what Denise is trying to say is it's directly uphill from Tony's Fish Market. It's immediately
Right next to
Tony's,
it, right?
and then- yeah,
yeah.
right. So rather than just turn right and look left, it's right above the hill from Tony's.
Yeah, they put a roof on it. I think.
The Tony's went through recently a site plan and design review and looks really great. And they, we're all happy that the sign got repainted and everything. And as you know, you've got some other applications that happen in the vicinity. The original proposal that we received is the first picture that you have on your little drawings
With the gabled roof.
with the gabled roof, and it's the house. It was slippery and cold that day, so I took it through the fence. So you're looking at the existing house through the fence.
I'm trying to picture where the White House is in relation to this house.
White House.
This White House you've got a picture of right there.
This is right next to.
It's next to Tony's. That's Tony.
This is next to the White House.
It's not really white, it's kind of a brown color, but that's
Next to-
Tony. Yeah,
like
that's
right
where
here.
you see the little thing on the side where you just put your finger.
Yeah,
That's the yard.
yeah, for this.
Yeah.
They're right next to each other.
It's-
with
yeah.
the space.
But there's a big,
Gotcha.
there used to be an old garage there many.
So there's like a lot between them.
No, that's part of this lot for
It
15
looks like there's
looks
one,
like-
But
but
there
there
used
isn't.
to be a garage there a long time ago, and it got torn. It just
So
literally fell over.
they're proposing to put this structure in that area that's
No, they're proposing to reconstruct the house so that it would look like this.
right. But so that won't be filling in this area right here.
This will, the garage will.
It will be filling in this
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
That's what I was.
Yes.
Are they tearing this thing down?
No, that has nothing to do. That's on a
That's just-
separate tax lot.
Okay, that's just from here over is this thing.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I didn't know
Oh,
that
so
that
the
much
White
space.
House is coming down too?
No,
No.
that's attached to Tony's. That is part of Tony's Fish Market.
How much space, Denise, between this right here and that house that's attached to Tony's? I mean, is that a
25.
I think the garage is proposed to have a frontage of, let's see, it's got a single car garage door and a double car garage door. So do the math.
Well, this
Single
picture, this rendering is showing a road going there. I think.
No, that brown line is the property line.
Yeah,
It's
this-
Tony's. front.
Oh,
Yeah, this is a little
line.
misleading because again, it's computer drawn, not
Okay.
real drawn.
Right.
So then the second and the third and the fourth things that you have attached are a modification that they are contemplating submitting
Going forward with this.
to not do this, but to do this.
So we like the roof line on the first one better than on the other one.
Well, so did we. So I've met with the designer a couple of times and we talked about, the conservation district again being adjacent. We talked about the buildings in the vicinity. We talked about flat roofs versus pitched roofs. And I understand all of their issues that they have with regard, but I said, in hindsight, we think that the first proposal that you submitted
This
would,
one?
yes, would be more compatible with, a few more details fleshed out. So basically the house is going to be kind of reconstructed. I think the only thing that's going to be left is part of the foundation and the house below the roof line, and then they want to go up, out, and then over. So that's, they need a lot of space.
Well, the whole garage area is a complete reconstruction.
Yeah, the garage is brand new. It's a,
Is this going to be business?
no. The house has been used residentially for many years. The zoning changed, as you know, in the city, and this area from here on down became MUD as opposed to R6 or whatever it was in the 80s.
Oh,
Eight,
multi-use.
We didn't have R8 in McLaughlin. We had RC4 and R6 in the McLaughlin neighborhood.
Oh.
So these folks basically, the residential use is a non-conforming use in the zone, so we're going by a residential standard. And that's what I was talking to them about, that we would prefer to design be the residential standard as opposed to the,
Yeah, the other one looks like
the box thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other versions I've been referring to as Malibu Barbie's Beach House.
If it was pink.
I think my first Barbie house was pink.
Yes.
Well,
We've had a discussion about this at the neighborhood association twice.
yeah. Did you guys vote?
We did. We voted to appeal the decision.
This decision?
Yes.
This is
That hasn't been submitted yet.
Oh,
So we got together and we talked about this, and I said, hey, we're willing to go part of the way with you here.
And it's just outside the district.
It is adjacent.
The
to-
line is right here where you see this pretend fence that doesn't exist there. It's just on the other side. But in our opinion, it does have an effect on the conservation district.
because
You're coming down that hill, you're going up that hill, all the residential structures in the neighborhood, in that vicinity, have gabled or pitched roof. Flat roofs, with the exception of the Ermitinger house, again, that's 1846.
and fire station.
Yeah, well, the fire station's not being used residentially, neither is the Ermitinger house anymore. But,
Right. But I mean,
so it's you know, we're struggling.
yeah.
And Brian Shaw, is in the neighborhood association, is here too, and can talk a little bit about this from an architectural standpoint.
Well, flat roofs for garages were used.
Yeah, we don't have an issue with that.
I just can't imagine why one house would be. Well,
We don't know. It just was. Our boundary goes in there, and I looked at it very carefully, and it just skirts that.
the other thing that lessens the impact is the fact that it's down. It looks like it's the elevation goes below the street level. Is that am I?
But it's not significant.
The garage is, and that's a good thing. It's set back, and so you know you're not gonna get the full. Most people will not see the full impact of it. Obviously, if we live here and we go there every day like I do, it's going to be noticeable to me. But I think that helps that it's set back, and the city wouldn't have allowed it to be set forward anyway. So it is set back, and they're going to have a driveway and so forth, and it'll be kind of down in there. But the building.
Well, just being the devil's advocate, you guys really don't have any say with this, correct? It's outside the district.
No, it's up
It's
to the
in the neighborhood association boundary. It is
In the
outside.
association boundaries. Okay.
Yes.
That's
Get
what
out
I
of
was
the conspiracy.
Yeah, so you can't be devil's advocate on that.
Okay. I guess I could be the devil's advocate that I just purely from that perspective. I don't think there's any mid-century modern homes in the neighborhood. I mean, the Laughlin district. Is there?
No, I on a staff level, I can give a little background to how we got where we are, if that
Yeah.
would help. Okay.
Yeah.
And I can bring Laura Butler in. As you know, this property is located outside the McLaughlin Conservation District, so therefore historic review is not done. It's a bit of a unique site in the sense that it's zoned mixed use downtown, but it is currently a single-family residential. The property went through site plan and design review because it is zoned a commercial zone, and changes to a commercial site, and even if it's single family, does require site plan and design review. The property was reviewed under two sets of review criteria: a single family design standards, which everybody in the city, any new house in the city has, which are real general about garages width or certain width and need to be set back from the house or within 4 feet. And then the site plan design review looked at issues regarding the landscaping and transparency. But what doesn't get involved in site plan design review and even the residential design standards are kind of this gray area architectural discussion that is that the board usually deals with, because they're a lot more clear and objective standards. And so I think the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association has brought it to appeal, and I believe it's going to the
Going to the city commission December 1st.
okay.
The draft report should be out tomorrow.
Okay, and so that's where kind of where we are today is it was being reviewed under site plan design review. The staff wrote conditions relating to development review inside the mixed-use downtown district and being a single-family residential style. And so the staff did not find criteria relating to architectural style, and that's kind of the crux of, I think, some of the appeal to the city commission. But I think what the Historic Review Board needs to look at tonight is kind of things. A, do you want to make a comment to the city commission through this appeal process formally or informally, or not? And so that's kind of with this application. Secondly, maybe not this application, but in the future, is this something you would want to be involved with in the future, which is development around the ring of an historic district, but not in the historic district? I know on a historic level, that's all. It's a slippery slope to have compatibility buffers for the historic review to look at. The historic districts are chosen very carefully based on the historic resources, and oftentimes the better avenue is design standards for new construction that may be different. So on a staff level, I generally don't recommend buffer areas in regards to historic, but you can see, do you want to be involved in this application, or do you generally want to be involved in the larger discussion of new construction alterations around historic districts?
Just to clarify a couple things, there was a staff report for this one. The appeal is on that first design, the pitch roof. The applicant is discussing coming back and modifying that design or changing the design to that second design you've seen, but they haven't submitted anything, obviously, because we're waiting for a decision on this through the appeal process. And then also, in site plan design review, we do have a compatibility criteria, so that would be the only thing. But since it's not in a historic district, it's not held to the same standard. So the appeal raised a couple issues, an issue of incompleteness, and then also an issue of dealing with conditions of approval. So it's limited to those items.
We don't want to get you involved in the procedural issues, because that's not the question we're asking. We think that there's a compatibility issue, and we think that this development has a significant visual impact on the conservation district, and the city has the authority to ask an appropriate review body an advisory opinion about what they think about it. They haven't asked you; we're asking you.
Well, I think that you gave us a choice of being informal.
What I asked for is informal.
And I think that I would feel more comfortable getting an informal.
And if I may, I think the whole buffer zone question, I think that's our duty as an association, is to look at these sort of things and say, this might be, if it was a couple blocks away, there wouldn't be this historic question. So I almost see that as more our duty to bring buffer issues to the appropriate body, to bring those things to you. If, we, the neighbors, think it looks appropriate, then, and it's outside of your specific jurisdiction, you shouldn't be bothered with it, I think.
And that's the question.
Yeah.
What authority do we have
Well,
outside the conservation district?
What role do you want to play?
No, we can't write our own law.
No. I think what Denise is saying, and I can give my staff recommendation on this, but the Historic Review Board does provide guidance to the City Commission on historic matters. But on a staff recommendation, I recommend you wait for the City Commission to ask for that guidance for this situation. But that's my staff recommendation. The issue with site plan design review, and especially with housing, and the clear objective standards that are required for that review sometimes bring issues to pass, such as this application. And we don't have our city attorney here, but there are definite issues related to clear and objective standards that have to be brought up and addressed when this gets to appeal in relation to compatibility. So things that can be done through historic review don't have to be clear and objective. But when you get to a staff opinion, staff approval, but especially residential development, it gets a lot more clear and objective. So some of the issues related to compatibility may not be as applicable in the appeal. So I personally, on a staff level, recommend waiting for the appeal process to go through.
Okay, now I have a question. If we do wait for the appeal process to go through and the city commission asks the HRB, would that be, what were those two choices again?
Well, it would be
become an
official, or would it be?
that's the direction of this. As staff, I recommend for the city commission to give you direction to get their opinion on a matter like this, since it's not
And that
your
would be they would require an official response.
or unofficial. That's up to their direction.
But so we couldn't respond to them officially and to MMA unofficially.
My question with an unofficial recommendation is what exactly does that do? That's what I don't.
What this
When does
is-
an unofficial become official?
Well, this is basically what you're suggesting, and I agree with. It's basically kind of passing the buck, not from us, but waiting for them. They will, by default, pass it back to us because they don't want to deal with it, and they'd rather us give the opinion that they could build on. I'm also concerned with the so-called, a buffer. Where does that buffer end? I don't know the exact boundaries any more than anybody else in the city probably does, except for those who are involved in the neighborhood association. I honestly couldn't tell you if it was that house or if it was Tony's Fish Market is where the boundary is. So as far as where that border is, you know where it is, and it's a very important one. However, I guess whether it's here or it's on the other side of this border and it might be 2 or 3 houses away, at what point do you say my authority stops as far as where I can impose my mandates with my neighborhood association, and where is it strongest? As you take a house, like you said, maybe a couple blocks away, does your strength become weaker? And as opposed to a house right next to the border, or because that's where it's like Ken says, we don't.
It's the boundary.
What's
It's
that?
the boundary. It's not a border.
Well, boundary, border, whatever it is. It's like Ken says, we can't start writing our own gigs as far as how it's going to be looked at, because any more than if you've got this same issue, because what I have a hard time with is if you're saying this is going to happen 2 blocks away, we don't really care so much, but when it's getting closer, you kind of did. It was inferred that if it was a couple blocks away, it may not be that big of a deal. To be honest with you, whether this was a block away or right on the line, I couldn't tell you because I don't know it. I'm not questioning if this is cool or not, or if it fits in or not. I'm just saying it's probably not in our purview to even bring it up. Yeah, we could give your opinion. Our opinion would probably be aligned with how you guys feel. But until something formal comes and says, look, it's remanded back to us to say you guys make the call because we as a city commission want you to, I would agree with that. But
I don't have any. I don't have any.
Back to you that they may request an opinion.
and it might be the same opinion we're offering tonight, maybe in a formal way. But
If I could just clarify, maybe you misunderstood what Damon said. We're not talking about asking you to make any decision about a border or a buffer
No.
or a line or a boundary.
I
We're
gotcha.
not saying that if it was
No.
2 blocks away, we didn't care. That's not the issue. We're not saying that. We're saying basically that I'm comfortable if you want to say we'd like to wait for the process. That's not an issue. We will specifically then ask the city commission to ask you what you think.
sure.
And if I can clarify my doesn't matter comment that you took, it's the further away it gets from the historic district boundary, the less likely you would see it, is what was inferring. It may, if it's not compatible with the neighborhood, we're going to deal with it like we would with anything else, whether it's 1 inch or,
Yeah.
whatever. But and if it's up by the hospital, which is a mile away from your boundary, there's absolutely no reason for us to bring it to you. So that's what I meant by that. Not,
Well, and another argument could be if this goes this way, somebody I'm devil's advocate, he could be saying, "Hey, look, mid-century modern is historic, and I can find examples to make this compatible. And you know what? I'm not in your district; I'm outside of it. So your authority is only so much." I mean, these are the arguments that could be brought up.
But it's new. It's not a mid-century modern house. It's a brand.
You could be making it that way.
It's a brand new reconstruction. That's what they're
I'm
proposing.
not arguing with you.
But
On
some,
that
you know,
point.
some neighborhoods want these to designate. They'll say, instead of a buffer, we want a hard piece of architecture that says this isn't in the historic neighborhood. This is the edge, and they will build something like that mid-century modern type of a building. There's one example in the Selwood area. I was amazed to see this condominium go up with these sharp lines, and right next to the street was all these historic bungalows on it. And I've come to find out that that is the beginning of that district, and that's the end of that district. And
they were
that
using like the
building
Laurelhurst.
marked it clearly.
gateways.
Not even an easement.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there is no district in Selwood, which is much to the bane of their
Some
existence.
neighborhoods want that,
Yeah.
and some neighborhoods
Right.
want a buffer that, you know, is
Yeah, or
eases into.
Cindy's saying she wants this so that we know where it starts.
Well, that's a discussion for another day about whether we want, that on the border.
Right,
I
and
mean,
that's your decision.
right, so just to let you know that, Spicer Brothers, which of course some of you who are here, remember that when it was a car dealership. Some of you weren't here when it was, but he's planning on redoing the building, and it's going to have a nice gabled roof on it and look much better than the temporary stuff. And I say that because I worked on that proposal for him when he had the part of the building fell down and he had to put up something temporary. Well, we didn't think it was going to be temporary for 15 years. But
that's Oregon City temporary.
excuse me, that's Oregon City.
Yeah,
So anyway,
our
Ronnie,
temporary.
do you wanna add anything?
yeah, I'll let you come up and say your.
Yes, ma'am.
Brian Shaw, 1318 9th. One of the founding members of the HRB. So, 1980, I think it was. Been on there for 10 years, so.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the thing that why you may want to make an opinion here is because in the future, for instance, if this residence was to be built as they're planning here, and it's on the line, as it is right now, if that lot were to be empty next to it within your conservation district, and these folks the new folks wanted to build on that empty lot within your conservation district, they could look next door and say, well, it happened over here, we're building that's similar, in that district. And so I think that's the reason you may want to register an opinion at some point in time, so that you have something in the file that says that's why that got done. That's why we're issuing an opinion on it. I don't know if that makes sense, but because at some point in time, some structure is going to come before you that's within the McLaughlin Conservation District, but next to it is something like this, and you may have wanted to have registered an opinion on that, so you have something to kind of fall back on.
Yeah, this is a little bit of not in my backyard too.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. I've been on both sides of that.
Yes.
The thing is, though, if that hypothetical situation comes to pass, there already are standards in place that the construction would have to adhere to.
That's a good point.
Right, exactly, but having that opinion too also reinforces what decision you would come up with that eventual project. So that's one reason that I think that the tough part about this is just the visibility issue. This is the main entry into this area. So on the right-hand side, there's the sign entering the neighbor McLaughlin conservation district, right to the left is this. You know, so that's kind of a little tough to swallow there too. So that's the reason I'm thinking about it. So.
Well, I appreciate it for the board. I appreciate you guys having that feeling, and it's a good thing people do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we don't have anything else. I just, again, want to thank you for letting us come and talk to you about it. Whatever you decide, you know, there's going to be no prejudice. We just appreciate being heard and letting you know that, you know, sometimes there are, you know, issues.
we appreciate hearing from you.
So
I
thank
think
you
we'll
for,
just wait until we hear something.
yeah, we will. So do you want to, so our direction from you is that if we request the city commission to ask you what your opinion is, you're okay with that?
I think so. Yeah, that would be a more formal approach.
Okay.
Yeah, because then you have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it would be an official response, and then it would get into the record.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. No, thank you for listening. We appreciate it.
Yeah. This is a public hearing. Okay. Thank you. Can I start? Start. Okay. We'll now commence the public hearing on agenda item HR 10-10, the Ainsworth House, 19130 Lot Whitcomb Drive. A request for approval of an addition to the rear. The criteria for approval of land use action are contained in Chapter 17 of the Oregon City Municipal Code. The proposed development must comply with applicable provisions contained in the City of Oregon City Comprehensive Plan. Generally, unless otherwise noted, if a request is found to be consistent with the municipal code, it is considered consistent with the comprehensive plan. If you wish to participate in this hearing, including challenges for bias or conflict of interest, you must complete the sign-in form located on the table at the front of the room and deliver it to staff. Please do so immediately. The chair will only recognize those who have submitted complete forms. Testimony will be taken in the following order: applicant testimony in favor, testimony in opposition, rebuttal by applicant. When recognized by the chair, please come forward to the podium, give your name, address, and make your statement. All testimony, arguments, and evidence presented regarding this request must be directed toward the applicable criteria or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation in which the person believes to apply to the decision. Please address only the applicable criteria for the decision. Please do not repeat testimony. If you wish, you may choose merely to agree with the previous speaker's statements. An issue which may be the basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised not later than the close of the record at or following the final evidentiary hearing. Such issue shall be raised and accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Commission and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision makers and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes the appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of persons to participate in the public hearing either orally or in writing precludes that person's right of appeal to the City Council or LUBA. Written testimony submitted prior to the hearing constitutes participation in the hearing. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the decision maker to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. The Commission shall grant such requests by continuing the public hearing pursuant to the standards contained in ORS 197.763. Do any of the board members have a conflict of interest or ex-party contact regarding this application? No. Anybody visited the site?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Chairman McLaughlin. This is HR 1010. I apologize for the incorrect number. This is for STRC approval for addition to the reception building of the Ainsworth House. The property is located at 19130 Lot Whitcomb Drive, and the Ainsworth House is now part of the Ainsworth Estates. As you can see, it's a large lot. It was previously, I believe, 7 acres and was subdivided in 1990, the early 1990s, and this remained as a larger lot in the subdivision. In concert with that process, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit CU 90-10 to establish a bed and breakfast and wedding reception meeting facility. The conditional use approval was for a bed and breakfast facility of no more than 3 rooms with a maximum capacity of 100 people for the reception facility. The original plan was to have the reception facility in the Ainsworth House, but because of fire access issues and just general wear and tear on the house, a reception hall was chosen as a better option. The original hall was built as part of the original CU. Mr. Yell, the applicant, purchased the house and in 2005 requested an addition to the original reception hall of 900 square feet. That was under the 1,000 square feet threshold for a conditional use approval to make an amendment to the conditional use. That went through in 2005, and this year the applicant is requesting for another 900 square foot addition, and that kicks a conditional use in for the review. So on December 13th, 2010, the Planning Commission will review this addition along with proposed amendments to the parking lot of the reception hall. What they will not be reviewing is an addition to any of the 100-person capacity of any reception of the facility. What will happen is we'll allow the applicant in the wintertime, when there's winter events, to have the full 100-person capacity indoors. What has happened is in the summertime, some of the tables can be outside, and the applicant is allowed to have to meet the 100% maximum. But in the wintertime, the building as constructed, you're not allowed to get to 100% capacity. So let me go through a little bit what is being proposed this evening. This shows the front of the Ainsworth House from the street. You can see the Classical Revival House.
Can we get, I'm sorry to interrupt, the thing right in the middle of the screen, unless I go to out of range thing?
The big blue square.
Sorry. Keep going.
Okay, well, so this is the, you can see the Ainsworth House, Classical Revival, built in 1850. This is showing the existing reception hall. This is around the corner. Okay, it can't be fixed right now.
Oh. No worries.
This is showing the existing parking lot and the existing reception hall. This is a close-up of the existing reception hall. The addition will be coming, be cross-gabled, and will match the kind of the cross-gabled section you see, which is, and I'll show you a roof plan. This is looking just to the left, to the right of where you were previously in front of the Ainsworth House. But this is looking from the street directly at the reception facility through the tree grove. And you can see that more in detail when I show you the site plan. So this, where you see the arrow, is the proposed addition. It's a cross-gabled addition, and a new patio, which is the square just to the north of you, is being proposed. Where you saw the photo is basically directly north of the site at Lot Whitcomb Drive, looking back down. It also shows the proposed addition. Where it says new seating area is the existing patio, and then you can see through 3 French doors there'll be a new patio, and that'll be looking out onto the tree grove. The meeting area section was the original. In 2005, the seating area was added, and then this is the new area that was supposed to be added. This shows the roof plan, so you can see how the cross-gabled addition is added at an 812 roof pitch. Where the arrows are, you can see the new addition. To the north elevation, you can see the 3 French doors. The west elevation is what you would see from the Lot Whitcomb corner, and the south elevation is what you would see if you're in the parking lot.
Can I ask a question? Was there some reason why they wanted to go with 812 instead of to match 1212?
Yeah, if you look back at here, you'll see the existing addition is 812, and the main volume is 1212. So these are basically two side wings.
Okay.
The applicant is also proposing revisions to the parking lot, and these really will be reviewed during the site plan design review and conditional use. What they are is they're a way to allow event staff to park closer to the building and not take up 4 parking spaces of the small parking lot for the guests. So option A has a second drive entrance into a smaller parking lot. Option B takes away 1 parking space and has kind of a tandem, longer loading parking area. And option C is an angled parking that's coming from that existing parking space. What I don't have for you right now, since this is currently being reviewed for development review, I don't have staff's opinion about option A, B, or C. So this evening, what the board is really looking at is there an option that is not historically appropriate? And through my staff recommendations, I'll give you a little more direction on that. But what the board is really directed to look at tonight is the historic appropriateness of the addition and the parking lot revisions, and the development review and conditional reviews will happen at the December 13th meeting. And any conditions that the board places on the application this evening will follow through to the secondary hearing. Why I've recommended approval of this application, specifically that they can use all 3 options A, B, or C, and the reason I'll go back that I'm making this finding is because of its location on site, I do not see how either of these 3 options will adversely affect the existing historic building. And I'm going to scroll back to the site plan. You see where it says existing house, that's fronting Lot Whitcomb Drive. You have the large grove of trees, and then you have the parking lot and event center, which is at the far corner. Changes to this section of the lot, I do not believe will adversely affect the historic house in either of the 3 layouts. And so on a staff level, I'm recommending that the board approve this, that the applicant move forward with the recommendations to Public Works Department and Planning to pursue one of the 3 options. And Planning Division or Public Works may not recommend one of the 3 for reasons dealing with safety or site distance or movability, but what I'm asking this evening is that the board forward through all 3 options to continue to look at, because on a staff level, I don't see any of them adversely affecting the Ainsworth House more than the other. The proposed addition utilizes cement board siding and the existing window layout. There we go. The windows, if you look at the middle section, you'll see 2 windows, two existing windows that are on the existing end of the building, which will be reinstalled once this is placed. One thing I'd like to bring up with the board, I don't have a recommendation on staff level, and I did not add as a condition of approval, but may need to be added, is the applicant did recommend, or did mention that he was looking at placing some stained glass on this elevation. There's always something to look at of bringing a historical element that does not exist into a non-historic building.
You see on the west elevation.
Yeah, the west elevation.
The 2 arrows are going.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 panel windows?
Those would be stained glass. Mm-hmm.
House gain. House gain, is it going to be color? Or
well, and I'll let the applicant speak more to it. And I think in general, because of its location, it's clearly a new building. It's a simple design building. On a staff level, I am not as worried, even if they were intricate stained glass windows. To me, I see them more as a art piece almost. To me, there's no way someone would think that that is
Part of the house.
part of the house or related to the house. You could make an argument that people might imply that the stained glass would have been involved. I can see that argument. And if the board wants to get more information from the applicant on that, I think that they can if they want to pursue that. But I'm not too worried because of where it's located. However, I think it's reasonable to pursue if the board wants to know more. And I know there was a question from. Let's see if I have anything. I had asked in a condition of approval that the applicant provide more additional photos from the porch of the Ainsworth house looking at the addition, just to make sure that it's not impacting it, it can't really be seen. And then also from Lot Whitcomb. I was able to get this off of Google Maps today, and I think it makes a good case of how, even though this is the summer, how far back this addition is set and behind the tree grove, that even though you're adding a new horizontal element to this building and increasing its mass, because of its location, I really don't think it's impacting the historic house. And I know the applicant has provided some photos and can show those tonight, but I think this photo, site visits, I think a case can be made that even though you're expanding the size, and by the time you're done, this addition is larger than the Ainsworth house in footprint. I mean, it's pretty big. So someone could argue that is there a point where the addition starts to outmass the historic house. And I think they were able to do it because of its location and because of the grove, that you really do not see it and are impacted by it based on its location. And if it was added somewhere else, it could, I think, adversely impact the house by sheer fact that now the reception hall is bigger than the house. But in this situation, I do not see that's the case. The applicant is here and will be able to answer specific questions, and I'm here if you have any specific questions to answer before I hand it over to the applicant.
Well, thank you. If we don't, we can start with the applicant. If you guys want to come forward and or whoever, state your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Kevin Yell. I live at the Ainsworth House 19130 Lot Whitcomb Drive.
Welcome.
I'm not wanting to repeat anything that Christina said. As well as being able to see people all year indoors, it will mean that during the summer we won't be, currently we put the bar on the patio in the summer, as well as having tables out there. So that area, which I know creates some noise to the neighborhood, and that area will now be indoors all year round. So we wanted to try and create a bit more parking to take some pressure off the street. I believe we're already over minimum required, the 32 places we have on the lot. But I'd like to create more just to take more cars off the street when we do have a full house, and reduce the noise in the neighborhood so it's easy for them. Apart from that, Christina did a very good job of telling you all the other issues unless you have specific questions. I do have some photographs if you want to see them from the porch.
I was just going to ask, if you're bringing it in, what are you going to do in the summer? Are you going to still bring the bar outside? No, there will be outdoor.
The bar is now going to be, for the internal redesign we're doing, the bar will actually be located in the same as where the dancing is, with the black and white dance floor.
So there won't be any functions outside anymore?
No. There will be a new patio so people can take a drink outside and sit and enjoy the garden. The bar will not be out there and we will not be serving food out there.
That was nice.
Oh.
I don't have any questions.
No. Pretty straightforward.
No, I think.
Is there anything about the stained glass window you'd like to know?
Was it just for art's sake that you wanted to do that?
Part of the, because the room is so full of light, and there's a lot of lovely stuff outside to see, that's great, but in the evenings when it gets dark, there are no special architectural features in the room. Also, for the non-summer weddings, creating a focal point for an indoor ceremony was part of our mindset. So that push out that's between the two stained glass windows is going to be an internal fireplace, is what we'd like to do. So the idea of having a fireplace with stained glass windows either side would be an indoor focal point for the weddings. Also, we're doing a few more small retreat days and things like that. So the hope is to be able to work with a furniture rental company to create sort of a fireside feel, so a group could have a meeting area, a relaxation area, and a food area. If you've got 25 people for a day or two, they can actually use the space more creatively. Also, the stained glass window, unless it's lit, you can't see it. So the only times will be really viewable from the outside, because we'll have plain glass either side. So yes, when the lights are on inside, people will be able to see the stained glass. But when you're looking in, it just looks like a dark window. You won't really see much. They're just decorative.
So from the outside, it won't be real obvious.
I don't believe so. That's my experience of going past churches. You know, you can't really see what the glass is unless it's lit from the inside.
Right.
Okay. Well, no, I appreciate it. I think we're good. Yeah, thank you. We're going to do either testimony in favor or opposition. I don't know what's what, so. Okay. Then we'll start with Damon Mabey. You come forward.
Hello again, everybody. For the record, David Mabey, City of Oregon City, and I'm just here as a citizen. My concerns with it, I'm in favor of the project in general. My one concern is if the stained glass not make the building too churchy. One of the things that could happen now is you have this historic house and you have a large building with stained glass, and was it like a private chapel, kind of an effect that might come from too much sort of stained glass. And then the other thought, which I guess isn't necessarily in your purview, but was the free parking options. And it appears to me from the smaller drawing I saw that option A, up or down? It looks like option A actually provides more parking. There's 5 spots for vendors, and there's one, they don't take away a spot from the regular parking. And I've heard from the neighbors that when they have a big event, there is spillover street parking. That people start parking along the street. They've done a great job of working with the neighbors on that, but that's 6 more spots where cars can be and not out on the street. Especially if you're in one of those where it's just the 2 or 3 cars, now they're off. So that's 6 more spots that would be internal to the property. But other than that, I think that Ms. Yale's been a very good steward of the property, and the location of the excess parking is completely hidden from the historic thing. So I think it's a good concept.
Yeah, thank you. I would agree with that. Yeah, in my opinion. Denise?
Again, Denise McGriff at 15 Washington Street, and as many of you know, I have a very long history with this particular piece of property. And only time will tell whether we did the right thing or not the right thing, but we were faced with a situation that you all were faced with when the McCarver project came in here. We had a developer who was, whether it was real or pretend, was talking about tearing the Ainsworth house down, which again would have been a crime in many, many ways. And the HRB and the planning staff and planning commission spent a lot of time working with the developer to try to come up with a plan and a proposal that would leave the maximum amount of property for the house and allow for some other use of the other parcels. We also had, just to mention, we had SHPO involved and the National Register folks with this particular application. When Claire met and her mom decided to buy the property, one of the things they knew immediately had to happen was they needed an event facility because they felt it would be inappropriate to have large events or any sorts of activities other than small teas in the Ainsworth house. I can't remember where the site plan is. Is it? Like three? Get a new one? Oh, those arrows, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that one. So when Claire came to the city to talk to us about citing a reception hall, there was really a very specific desire, not only by her, but comments from SHPO and the National Register folks, that this reception facility be located to minimize its impact on the Ainsworth house. So I think in hindsight, it was really a good idea where the parking was placed, where the building was placed. And again, as Christina said, when you come down Lot Whitcomb Drive, your eye goes directly to the Ainsworth house, and you don't really see the impact of the reception hall until you come around that corner. And again, because of the pitch of its roof, the design, it's really been designed to be somewhat invisible with the grove of trees there, and those were specifically left in that location for lots and lots of reasons, including screening that. I think that what Kevin is proposing is very appropriate, and it's in keeping with the existing building. And I'm happy to see that, again, since the property's been sold and Kevin has been the owner, that it's something that I personally can go back to many times and was just there recently for an event and can look upon this with pride because it's a real save for preservation. It's a save for not only the citizens of Oregon City, but this house has national significance. And I know when we were there at the dedication and the relatives of Captain Ainsworth, the McCarthys from Hood River, they were really pleased and very happy. And we had an event in the reception hall, and it's a good feeling. So I want to recommend that you support this application. I think this is going to be really good. I don't know whether there's been any comments from the neighbors, but when we were citing that reception hall, we had lots of outreach meetings with the neighborhood, talking about what was going on, and there were some concerns. We don't want drunken brawl. I don't think any of that has happened over the time since this building was developed. I think it's been very compatible with the neighborhood, and I think even some of them have probably used the facility. It's just a great project all the way around, and I'm happy to have been associated with it in the past.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you guys want to rebut that? No? Okay. Well, all right.
The windows, we were saying last, just to go back to that, they are specifically not religious in design, they're merely decorative. It's based on usual, what do they call it, the pineapple things, just coming up and displaying out. So very
not like seagulls or lighthouses.
No,
or anything
not
like that.
picture at all. Yeah. But it's
Nothing
nice
big
one
deal.
I can find out.
There's plenty around. Well, thank you. Okay.
The packet you see condition of approval, number 3 that has additional photos, the recommendation recommended approval and remove condition of approval.
Photos. I don't think they're needed. Or we can add them to the record, or just to clarify that. Here, I can put them on the PowerPoint.
And then at this time, I want to enter the PowerPoint to the record as Exhibit 1. And the photos will be entered into the record as Exhibit 2.
Condition approval number 3 I have in red, which I think can just be striked from the recommendation.
Just 1 and 2. Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I move we approve HR 10-10.
Nice.
Oh, minus condition number 3.
Is there a second?
There is a second.
All right. Ms. Cole?
Aye.
Mr. Basinger?
Aye.
Chair McLaughlin?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Happy holidays. Thanks. Thanks for being patient. Thanks, everybody.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are we adjourned?
Yes. We're out of here.